So welcome everybody. You can see the agenda here that we're going to start with a pair share and move to small groups, think about planning for breakout rooms, and then move to larger groups. So we're really modeling sort of the breakout room idea throughout the workshop. Eric, do you want to say anything more to
No, just welcome
or introduce?
Happy everyone's here.
Great.
Nice to see you.
Terrific. So if we go into our pair share here, our breakout room 1 is going to be a short one. But if you can talk to your partner about a story of a favorite lesson or class from when we were in real time, what was that like? What what was going on in the class? What did you, why was it a favorite lesson or class? What made it successful? I mean, we're assuming success and favorite go together. What were the students doing? What were you doing? So really just a storytelling pair share, and we're gonna get you into those groups unless anyone has a clarifying question. Please feel free to, if you want to be in the chat if you have a question, but I'm going to put you in breakout rooms. So if you want to take a piece of paper, little index card, just pull a piece of paper from your notebook, piece of that scrap paper that you have sitting by your desk because you always need to take a note or two, and a pencil. For our share out, we want you to put a word. I mean, you could have more than one piece of paper. What words or short phrases or ideas did you hear? For example, you might have something like, talking. So write it big, whatever word you had, like students were talking. So that's the word that I'm choosing as an option. So write it big on your piece of paper or scrap of paper so that everyone can see it.
About our story or our partner's story?
Could be either one. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. I see Lisa has community. Ronald, fun. And above that, Ronald, are some other words, right? So take a look around. Helene, it's not that clear. Can you make it a little darker, maybe?
I'll see what I can do.
Donna had John Lennon. Huh. Interesting. We'll have to hear more about that. What are some of the other words that folks see? Trevor, maybe hold it a little bit closer to the screen. I think it says sharing. Is that correct, Trevor? Kristen says excited. Susanna, I can't see yours. Linda, I can't see yours. Move it maybe a little over this way. Now I'm becoming a stage director, right? Oh, Linda has a lot on hers. First day, we'll scroll up. First day, I felt I had a real handle on it. Okay, great. Avis, I don't see yours. Richard has the New Yorker with Ruth Bader Ginsburg on it. I see at Chris's students, that's the word that I see. Student asks follow-up questions. Communicative. Great, 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 great. And Avril, I see also. Avril, can you hold it a little closer? Draw photos. Great. Who was speaking? Someone wanted to make a comment. Oh, Susanna is writing in the chat. If I haven't noticed yours yet, please do write in the chat. I wrote more engaging in the classroom. great.
Could we get one group photo with everybody's images up at the same time?
I'm gonna put mine up too.
So,
How do I turn it around so that it's not backwards?
It isn't backwards. The thing is,
Oh, I
you see it backwards,
Got it.
backwards for
this-
you, but not for us.
but
yeah.
not for us. Yeah.
Okay, here goes.
That.
Here goes. Okay. No, you don't have to say cheese because I'm looking at your paper. Okay, 1 second. Got it.
Excellent.
Eric, how did you take that picture?
I'm on a PC and it's Windows button, Shift S. Windows button, Shift S. There's also a print screen button.
I'm on a Mac and it's Shift Command 4 or 3 because I do both. Help me out, folks. One's the whole screen and one's the tiny one. 3 is the big screen, Kristen says. Thanks, Kristen. And if somebody has a radio going in the background, just mute yourself, it's fine. Sarah Ann, who I don't think we can see maybe in this big picture, is got the word student engagement, working together. Students can show what they know. This is the problem with having more than a certain number of participants to see everything that goes on the screen, right, Eric?
So what I can do, whereas I put the photo in the slides so we can
Great.
Share that and then see it together. So
Okay,
I'm gonna put
great.
it back up and then the slide after that will be the one with your class if you want to share.
Oh, okay.
So I'm gonna reshare my screen with the image. So we can all see it. Let's see here. Oops, sorry, I don't know why that, okay. Here we go.
Oh, great.
So this is, you know, a way to be doing a lot of things. I think of building community, right? Or setting up for success with whatever might be a next task. What are some things other folks think about as why this might be great for sharing with a class?
It's interesting to me to see Eric's screen because I've been calling on students in order in class to how they appear, but when I see Eric's screen, it's in a totally different order. It has nothing to do with the order of my screen. So it makes me aware of the fact that it's all jumbled depending on who's looking at it, which isn't, it's very interesting for me to see that.
Avis, I see also that you wrote in the chat, follow instructions. Can you say a little bit more about what that, how that connects with this for others to hear?
Oh, I just think with the students, although we send information to them on, through the classroom and stuff, it's still hard. I think most students would like to have that in person. So for them to follow the instruction online, sometimes it's very hard.
Yeah. Yeah. So this makes it a lot clearer when it's actually in context, right? In the context of the class. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Great. Avril, you want to just say what you said in the chat? I don't know whether you are muted, but Avril wrote, this screenshot is a great way to do the one word check out, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was muted.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
At the end of class, and sometimes in the beginning, but usually at the end, we'll do a one-word checkout. And I usually, like the press person was saying, I usually have to point to people because otherwise nobody says anything, or when they do, everybody shouts at the same time and you can't hear it.
Mm-hmm.
So this would be a great way to do that, to have them actually write it, put it up on the screen, and then take a screenshot, which now I learned how to do it quickly from you, Moira. I didn't know I could, on my MacBook, I could do Shift Command 3, is it?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I usually would have to go to my settings and find the
Right.
camera. So thank you.
Great, great. Yeah, and any potential for a breakout room discussion too we could be thinking about that as we're moving along. Eric, if you want to show the next slide, I guess, for just as folks are thinking about whether this has any application to breakout rooms, this was a screenshot that I took, which is probably more what you're going to get the first time around with your students. You know, nothing ever works exactly the first time. Some people are still writing, and some people you can't see it as well, but you know, you get the idea. I taught a class this summer and we tried this out as part of what we were talking about in breakout rooms about Sonia Sotomayor. So with that,
I have a question, quick question for Avril. When you said the one word checkout, what kinds of words are you expecting to hear with that? And you're muted.
So hi, yeah. I usually ask them for a word that kind of, and it's very difficult for them to do, but it's a good exercise in summarizing because they want to give a whole sentence. But usually it's a word that kind of encapsulates how they feel about today, what we've learned.
Mm-hmm.
And so usually they'll say things like fun or happy, learned, new, overwhelmed, confused, excited, all those types of words.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.
so lots of things going on in the chat. If you're following that, that's a great way to sort of multitask in this world. So let's move on to the next part, setting up for our breakout rooms. Breakout room number 2. Eric, do you want to go ahead or should I jump in?
Well, I can. I think what we'd like just to take a step back for a minute. We could see it when we looked at the photograph of our group and the words and phrases that people copied down, just thinking about successful classes from the past. But I think it relates very closely to what we have already identified as some of our learning goals for CUNY. And you'll see them here. This is excerpted from a new document we put together back in September. The online instruction in the CUNY Adult Literacy Program basically is some guidance with ideas drawn from the field and from talking to teachers and program managers about what we're hoping to do with online instruction. So, I mean, this is all new to us, of course, but we're trying to, hold on to what we already know about teaching, what we know works, and figuring out how to translate that into this very different worlds. But just looking at these lists of goals in HSE, pre-HSE, HSE, and ESL, I'm wondering which one of these stand out to you as goals that are related closely to student engagement. And you could respond in the chat or verbally, which of these goals stand out, quickly and resonate in terms of being important for student engagement.
Yeah, I see stimulating active learning. The C2G2 NRS.
Could you say what that is again for those who are not?
Yeah,
yet
well,
teachers?
people are writing in the chat. So we have 2 C's, which is communicative teaching or learning practices, community building. Those are the 2 C's. The 2 G's are group work and grammar in context. N is needs assessment. R is reduced teacher talk. And S, my favorite, is scaffolding.
So could I ask, maybe, can we ask maybe 2 or 3 people just to, could you help us draw the connection? How do you see the things that you've shared in the chat? Could I, maybe Donna, would you talk about collaborative learning? Why, how do you think it's important for student learning? If you're willing, Donna, maybe you could get us started.
And if I could just say, Donna, from above, also facilitate and plan, how that connects to those 3 things together.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was talking to Donna Grant.
Oh, so sorry. So sorry. There are 2 Donnas. So sorry. Donna Grant.
Sure. You know, especially in breakout rooms, I am finding that students have sometimes a little bit of difficulty working together to complete a task. And so, you know, I think of course, we think a lot about giving instructions and directions so that students can work together to complete the task. But I think that that learning goal, in particular for ESL classes, is really vital, because we want students to be communicative. We want them to communicate together. We want them to learn how to not only answer questions, but to ask questions as well. And so that really stands out to me as like an integral learning goal that takes a lot of effort and planning to figure out how that's going to work in a virtual classroom, in a breakout room, particularly. I mean, I bounce back and forth from room to room to room, so it's really important that students understand what they are supposed to be doing, and I have them repeat back to me. Repeat back to me. What is it? If I can get all of them to repeat back, then that's good. If one person can repeat back, then, I kind of task them, make sure you help everybody to understand what the goal is. Did I get that right?
Thank you, Donna. That was really, really lovely. And I think you're preempting some of the things that we want to highlight, which was wonderful that you're already talking about some of the stuff that we have been thinking about in terms of students really understanding what their task is and making sure they're ready before they go into those groups. Thank you. And some of the challenges that are there too. Can I ask Richard maybe, because Richard teaches HSE, pre-HSE. Richard, could you talk a little bit about group work and how you see it's connected to student engagement?
Just had a math class this morning, and I was in a breakout room with 2 students I didn't know. And so it was, we had a specific problem to work together on, algebra related. And part of it was learning how to give and take, and one of the women, actually, because I wasn't able to, she was the secretary. She shared her screen, so she was kind of in charge. And having that role, she kind of said, well, Aaron, what do you think? And then she would actually say, well, Richard, what do you think? And so we collaborated through the technology, and by the time we were done, after about half an hour, we were all friends and we knew one another, and that would carry over when we were in the bigger group. And I think it definitely facilitated learning and learning from one another. So yeah, I do think group work and social learning is so important. It gives it context.
Oh, that's lovely. That's, yeah, such nice examples from both types of classes.
Mm.
I feel like we, that's enough for us to think about to get us started with the next step, right, Moira?
Yeah.
So I'll pass it back to you.
So we want you to think about in our next breakout room, you'll have a little more time and you'll have a few more people in those rooms also. So what have you tried? We've talked a little bit about in general what makes it work. So now we want to think more about what you have tried more specifically.
So maybe Moira, I think you're setting up, sorry to cut you off, but I think you're setting up the breakout rooms in the background. Is that true?
I am. How can you tell that?
I'm reading your mind. So I just to give you a moment to do that, maybe I'd recommend that you write down the question here. I mean, maybe it's obvious, but for others, and Moira can let us know when she's ready.
I think we're ready here. 3, 4. So who has a resounding success or a glorious failure that they want to talk about? I hear laughter. That's always good. who is brave enough? And tell me who's speaking, because it's sort of the me syndrome also.
I want to nominate Lisa.
Okay. Okay, Christine is nominating Lisa. That's good community building. You've just met for the first time and now you're nominating each other. Go ahead, Lisa.
Because what she had to share was interesting. Very interesting.
It's a genius idea, not my idea, but something that I stumbled on called Padlet. And I find it to be a wonderful collaborative technique or app for sharing, even in breakout rooms. If I could share, I don't know if I can't share my screen.
You can't at the moment.
Co-host, I could, but anyway, it is.
You was able to.
It's essentially a digital cork board,
Bulletin board.
Bulletin board. There you go. Thank you. And I'll give students an activity that they work on together in the breakout room. And I tell them they've got to create something together and post their answers. So this is group number 2's answer, not each person. So they're forced to work together. And it's very lively, it's very interactive. And then when we come back to the main room, we share as a whole. So I did that yesterday. I was telling my group with phrasal verbs. They had to come up with 5 sentences, each group 5 sentences using the phrasal verbs. And when we came back to the main room, each group shared them.
And the great thing, Lisa, I think I have picked this up from my very little use of Padlet, is then it lives in the cloud too. It's also an electronic thing that you don't have to copy. You just let it live
It lives
in the electronic world. So it can be shared.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Moira.
No, go ahead.
It is free to a certain extent, but I think if you want to have unlimited boards, there's an upcharge. So in other words, I might need to delete the material on the board if it's free.
I see. Right. And Sarah Ann is saying, if I'm not mistaken, after the first 3 boards, you have to pay for Padlet. So we should find out the reality of all that. Great, terrific, thanks. I think we have a little bit more time. Another successful thing that you want to share, or even a failure that, you know, kind of can always be improved upon. That's why we try again.
Maya, Nippon, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Nippon, go ahead.
I have a glorious failure. I had no idea that when I'm putting students in breakout rooms, they won't be able to see my screen. Right. And so I mistakenly thought that they were looking at my screen, and I assigned a task that they were supposed to read from my screen and come together and work about that part. But after a while, I realized when I joined them, I realized that they are looking at a blank screen. They don't have the script in front of them. And then that's how I realized. And now I'm thinking of, actually, I joined today to learn how I can use share screen.
You can.
Yeah.
Well,
I guess,
the problem is, I will just say, as some of us have also found out, you cannot share your screen in the breakout room. I would like to make a sort of, I would like to make Zoom learn how to do that for us. I would like them to develop the technology. So I don't know, I'm on that campaign. So to Eric's point of maybe you want to write down the question, right, before we went into breakout rooms, you know, that really is one solution to that problem. Other solutions folks have come up with?
Can I clarify that? Can I clarify one thing real quick?
Yes, of course.
I heard you
please.
say that you can't share in breakout rooms. It's not quite that.
Yes.
It's as the teacher, you can't share your screen into all the breakout rooms. That's impossible. There's no way to project into the breakout rooms. But if you're in the breakout room, anyone can share. If you have those, if you allow people to share their screen, anybody in a breakout room can share.
Thank you for
clarifying. It just means
exactly.
the people in the breakout rooms have to be the ones sharing if that's going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Eric.
Exactly. And Sarah Ann said the same thing in the chat there. Yeah.
So that's what Lisa did in a minute ago. She shared her Padlet screen, which looked really neat. Lisa, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I did not know that. Now I know. You can also ask them to write down the instructions on a piece of paper.
Or take a
give them a minute or two to do that, and then they know what they're supposed to be doing once we put them into a breakout room.
Yeah. And just before we move on, which I think we're going to need to do in just a few seconds, is Susanna, also and others have probably done things like this. I actually have them write it down. I share it on the screen, have them write it down, and then I project another slide and I say, okay, what did you write down? So that they read it back to me and I type it again. So the slow students who haven't maybe finished have a second chance to write it down. I want to hear what they actually wrote down. And they're also saying it out loud. So there are multiple things, and it doesn't take up that much more time to include that. Eric, over to you, I think.
Okay, yeah. So, you know, of course, like always, we're bringing up lots of issues and questions that we can't immediately answer, but, you know, I think we're, you know, it's all part of this developing world that we're starting to get our heads around at least what some of the challenges are and what some of the possibilities are, and then trying to share some, you know, some rules of thumb that we've individually figured out for how to deal with these issues. I want to share, and some of this has already been identified, but just some of the challenges that we've heard, that we've experienced individually to having successful breakout rooms. And I'm guessing that a lot of this will be old news to you. But so the technology, of course, like, you know, what are students using? Are they on phones? Are they on computers? Are they able to share their screen? the Wi-Fi connection, can they be heard, all that stuff. There's also this question of trust and community. Like, are students ready to work in small groups? They don't, in the spring, we had the advantage of most of our students knowing each other already because they were in class together before we went online. But for a lot of us now, I assume that that's not true, that students don't necessarily know each other other than being in this online class. And we've heard, anecdotally, that, sometimes students are put in groups together and like, I don't know you, why would I talk to you? And it's not just that, like, students have to trust each other, and we have to all trust each other in order to learn, right? So it seems like breakout rooms are an opportunity to build community, but we can't assume that it's already there, right? We have to think about how do we build community and trust with, with our students. For ESL, probably, I'm sure more, but also potentially for other classes. Are students ready for the breakout rooms? Do they have the language skills? Do they have the specific tools that they need in terms of language in order to communicate together independently? So that's a question that comes up for us. And organizationally, are they ready to work independently in groups? I think a lot of this stuff is not necessarily different than it was when we were in person. Like, what is it that, there were challenges for students working in small groups when they were all together in our rooms, but maybe it's a little bit easier for us to move around the room and support students when they, when they needed more support. And now it's a little harder to figure out how to give that support. But students really need to have that same sort of organizational experience to be able to focus on the task. What is the task? Communicate with each other, who's going to take what part, who's going to take notes. That seems like stuff we can't take for granted either. We need to figure out how to teach students that stuff as well. I mean, so, these are a lot of challenges here. And then there's just the question of time. Our classes are shorter than they were, mostly, I think, than they were when we were in person. Often, many of our classes were 3 hours long, but, now maybe they're 90 minutes or even shorter. And coming in and out of breakout rooms takes time. I'm sure in the breakout rooms we've done so far with you, you felt like you were cut off. They felt very short. They weren't as long as what we would need to do with students, probably, except for maybe the low stakes questions just for warm-ups, but time is definitely an issue. So there's lots of challenges. What I want to share is, neither Moira and I would say that we are experts by any means on this, but we're hearing from lots of teachers and we're in communication with lots of people. And so we just want to share a couple things that we're hearing in terms of some rules of thumb about what can help with some of these challenges. I don't think there's any panacea here. Just for a moment, can we glance at this? We have a few minutes. Can we take 2 minutes? And I might even mute us just to model a moment of silence for a second. Take a moment on your own. And in the chat, we'll take a moment first just to read through this graphic on breakout room phases. And in the chat, if you could answer the 2 questions in yellow. So maybe one answer for each question potentially. What do you notice when you look around at this graphic? What's interesting to you? What stands out? What seems important? And then what do you wonder? What questions do you have? What are you curious about? What information is missing? So let's take a minute and fill up the chat a little bit with what we notice and what we wonder. So this basically, let me just to tell you a little bit, this woman, Teresa Wills, I started a Twitter conversation last week on breakout rooms. And I found this graphic on some advice for K-12 teachers. And I'm wondering how we might interpret and think about her advice. And then I'll say a little bit more once we come back together. So I'll give another minute or so for us to start responding in the chat. So definitely seeing some good noticing here and wondering, what is a low level stakes question? What is a high level stakes question? And you can unmute yourself at any time if you want to share what you notice, what you wonder, if you want to answer somebody else's question. Richard, my understanding of a low-level stakes question is something that anyone can answer, doesn't require that much background knowledge necessarily. What's your favorite season of the year and why would be an example of a low stakes question. A high stakes question is a little harder for me to think about what that would be, I guess.
Was that more the open-ended kind of?
Sorry, I'm muted, but yeah, Richard, I think either open-ended or that you actually have to do something collaboratively together. Like the stakes are higher because there's more to do to make it work properly, aside from just chatting or just sharing information, or even at the lowest levels, right? Just question, answer, right?
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
I think Linda's question here about whether with five students in a room, will everyone really participate, or will the more vocal, confident students dominate? I think it's a really interesting and useful question. I think one of the assumptions behind this graphic here is that these breakout rooms move in phases, and then students move to a new phase, or a class moves to a new phase when they're ready for it. And so a class that is ready to work in groups of 5 is a class that maybe has already thought about how to give equitable talk time. Like, if you can check off these ideas, does the group value collaboration? Are they comfortable with technology? Are they ready to give equitable talk time? Then they're ready for this to work in larger groups. But if not, then maybe they're not ready for it yet. And what does the teacher need to do to help that happen?
Eric, I noticed a couple questions about the problem-solving oath and what that is.
The truth is, I don't actually know. This is a math teacher who shared this. I'm sorry, I can't hazard a guess. I don't know. You could check her Twitter feed here, and even tweet at her and ask the question herself.
I also want to address the comment from Kristen, and I think it's sort of embedded in a lot of other questions about groups greater than 3 to be a challenge. And I think Eric's point, I mean, it's sort of like just, we're sort of just making general statements of they're not ready for it. But what that generally means is that we haven't had enough time for community building. We haven't had enough time for seeing all the faces enough times, or sharing a group photo, or the task hasn't been outlined enough, or they haven't done it enough times. So I think that's a really, really good point, Kristen, of how we're building to make possibly groups bigger or not. I mean, nobody's saying we have to have groups of bigger than 3.
Myra, I was also thinking of, maybe if we do use larger groups, like 4 to 5 students, on any given day, you might have one person absent from that particular group. Right? You can have the same group work together for a week or 2 and then switch groups, rotate them around, So that way they will get to know each other. By then they'll know our expectations, right? Work, and they'll, and they will build community within the groups themselves.
Yeah, really good point. I also want to just make a nod to Lester's comment about sharing information or documents with students beforehand, and how we're balancing that amongst and between ourselves in different programs with different students with different technology, because he's talking about students who are using computers, and not all of us have students who are using computers, and I'm so glad that there are students out there who are. But I know even in my classes, especially the level 1s, actually both, they're using phones, making it a little even more, just another step of challenge.
So I'm going to move us forward. Thank you, Moira. I want to. So basically, I want to share a little bit, some rules of thumb that I've gleaned just in the last few weeks of thinking about this. I mean, I've been using breakout rooms for a little while, but I haven't thought about it that carefully, and I'm still sort of in the middle of learning about it, but so I'm involved in this conversation on Twitter that I'll share with you later. I'll share the link to it if you're interested. And a lot of teachers in adult ed, but also teachers in K-12 responded. And just I wanted to share some of the things that came out of that conversation. Sort of it feels like preliminary advice because this is all brand new to us, really. Though I think what we need to do is think about how to connect to what we already know about good teaching, what do we already know about teaching in regular classrooms, and adapt that for this world. But so one of the pieces of advice that I heard a number of times was starting with fun activities, low stakes questions, questions that are easy to answer, that are more social, more about connecting with people, and starting with smaller groups, and sort of to make it easy for students to get started. And with the first goal just to be to talk to each other a little bit. And maybe that's already what's happening in a lot of people's classes. There's also this idea of preparing students for independence with small steps, that that we can't just leap into large difficult tasks that have many parts. Like, we want to think about how to help students learn one piece at a time. Like Christina was talking about students learning how to use Google Docs on independently, level 1 ESL students, and how it didn't happen in one class or two classes or three classes, but by the end of the semester they were able to do it. So, and I think that's by small steps and repeated practice. But there's also this idea of practicing together before students try it on their own. The activity of even like a notice wonder activity, which we just did together, it wasn't the full version of it, but like where a teacher takes notes on what do you notice and what do you wonder. I think it'd be great for students to do that on their own as well, but they would have to learn how to do that from the teacher first and practice it with the teacher, I think, before doing it on their own. And a couple of people I've mentioned, I've heard this a lot from adult ed teachers about don't forget the low tech tools we already have. We have papers and pencils, we have cameras, we can hold pieces of paper up to the screen. We don't have to make this more complicated than it needs to be, especially if our students aren't that comfortable with technology, or if teaching online is new to us individually. Giving students roles in small group work. I've heard that a lot of people doing that, though of course that's maybe something that you already did in your classes. But of course, students need time to practice what does it mean to be the facilitator, what does it mean to be the note taker, the timekeeper, all that stuff. And being patient with ourselves, I think, because I think we know that when we try things new teaching techniques, it never worked perfectly the first time. We have to be ready for a fair amount of failure and keep some humor about it and try again, because it's it's going to be a lot of awkwardness, and you all know that, you're teaching us that, I think. What we would like to do, we have a document that has some examples. I think there's about 8 different examples of breakout room activities or structures, the things that you could do in a breakout room. And what we'd like to do is give you some time individually to review those activities and then add some depth to them. So let me let you know what I mean by letting you see the document. I'm going to put the link in the chat and we ask you to open it up. This is a document we'll share after the fact as well. But this link here should let you open up a Google document. It's in the chat right now. It should let you open up a Google document that that you'll review together in your groups. So the groups are 5 or 6 people per group. It's funny here. I'm saying that there should be a screen sharer, somebody to share their screen. So and there should be a note taker and maybe a facilitator, but we don't really have time to teach you or model even the teaching of what that would mean. But so at the least, we should have someone who's sharing their screen and someone who's taking some notes on the conversation. And those could be the same person potentially. But the Google Doc would allow more than one person to take notes at a time. So if everyone wants to jump in and add notes, please do. Or you could just have 1 or 2 people in the group who capture the conversation and put it into the document. But your task is to review the examples of the activities there, and we'll look at it here in a second. And then brainstorm and add notes to those activities. So for a specific activity, what tools do students need? What do students need to know? And how would you use it? These 3 questions here are repeated as the column headers. So it's not that important for you to write this down, though you can if you want. But basically, like, what tools do students need, whether that's a tech tool or non-tech tool? And what do students need to know? Like, what kind of scaffolding is necessary for them to be successful in this task? And then how would you use it? How would you apply this? Like when in the semester, or with what kinds of content are you teaching, that kind of thing. Let's take a second to look at the document.
And while Eric's doing that, I would just, again, some of the things that we've talked about and that I've seen in the chat, like Kristen said, doing the same activity, the same type of activity, that's kind of the thing that Eric is talking about. Like, are we doing pair share, right? They know what pair share it is. Talk to your partner, you have 5 minutes, 2 minutes for one person, 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes for each person, right? That you've already set up and established. And the more you do it, the more routine it becomes. Or the writing thing that we talked about earlier. Eric, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is an example of an activity that's sort of similar to a pair share. But a teacher I was communicating with called it a share session, an informal time to socialize, share some discussion starters with your students and place them in small groups and breakout rooms. When everyone comes back together, ask students to share an aha moment or a connection they had with another student. This part of the document is what I'm asking you to fill in groups. So these are just some examples. What tools do students need for this particular activity? So for this share session, it seems to me that all they need is audio, mic, and headphones. They don't need video. It seems to me, but maybe there are other things you would think that they need. And what do students need to know, like what scaffolding is required? Well, they need to be able to have some conversational English, but maybe it could happen in a native language as well. And what's the discussion topic today? Maybe it's no more than that. And how would you use it? Where would you use some activity like this in the semester? So for me, I thought, well, maybe I might use it at the beginning of the semester for community building, or I would have specific discussion starters that related to topics that I'm going to be teaching later in the class, potentially. So this is just the idea of what you could fill in for these. There's other breakout room activities that are described here. And so you can take a look at any of these. Anyone that's interesting, it's not like you need to get through all of them. We won't necessarily have time, but and then down at the bottom, if you have others that aren't described, something that you've used yourself, there's the Padlet activity described earlier, that could go down here, and so that we can collect other breakouts that we'll share with you later. So what we'd like to do is put you into breakouts for, I don't know, a little less than 15 minutes so that we have time to look at this together. And then we'll come back and close and think about next steps. Any questions before we go into breakout rooms?
Hello, Christine.
Hi.
Hi, Moira.
Hi, Ron. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
Good. We, it's interesting, the 1.5-hour model of workshop or class, always fighting for time too. So the efficiency of breakout rooms is also always there for, what we need to do to set it up for success, to hopefully not take as much time the next time around. So I think that's also sort of, as we're formulating all these ideas of the ingredients that go into this formula of successful breakout rooms. Eric, do you want to close us out or
Well,
say
so we were
anything?
hoping that maybe just to close, I feel like we're closing with lots of open questions, but just to make it clear, we will prepare notes for this meeting. The meeting's recorded as well, but we're preparing notes. I'll save the chat and put the chat in the notes, and I'm going to try and respond. We're both trying to respond to some of the questions that were placed there. So when you get the notes, you might scroll down and look for answers to some of the questions that were posed. I mean, we'll answer the ones that we're able to and try to point towards other information if we have it. And it seems like we maybe need a part 2 at some point with this breakout room stuff, because this is all still developing. This document here, which, you know, the chart that we're filling out, I'd love it if we could keep working on it. If it's something that I feel like this is a resource to all of us, maybe there's other activities, we could keep developing this as a tool for us. So if you're interested and willing, please, you know, continue to add notes in here. We won't have time to look at it all right now, but one thing we thought might be useful is if anyone wanted to commit to trying a new activity that they learned about today. Is there something you want to try next week? I mean, to be specific, a new breakout room activity that you want to try next week, and maybe tell us why. Kristen, you want to tell us? Talk about it. Yeah.
Don't forget to
Sorry.
unmute.
Yeah, I just introduced my students to Padlet last week. And as you all had suggested in that long document that you sent to us, that we should try it with a low stakes activity. So, you know, they told me about their favorite fruit and found a picture of the fruit and put it in the Padlet. But, and I had a longer term activity planned for the tablet, but after, I can't remember who it was, said about just having them use it as a way to summarize and then see each other's answers. I thought that was golden. So I will incorporate that right away. Somebody has already asked me, well, what are we going to do with this? So.
Kristen, could we just see what Padlet looks like if we've never seen it? Can you share a Padlet?
Yes, or maybe the person who talked about it could share one.
She actually is gone from the
yeah,
meeting. Sorry,
yeah,
Lisa had to go.
Yeah, just a minute.
Mr. Google, it's okay.
I mean, it really literally looks like a cork board. Actually, you know what?
I think, Moira, I might be able to share one.
Great, Donna. Let me give you the capability to do that. Actually, you already have it. Yeah, that's already.
Okay.
We'll stick around for a little while. If anyone has to leave, of course, we don't blame you at all. But and then we can stick around and keep talking if anyone wants to stay.
While Donna's pulling that up, Lester, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm going to put you on the spot. Someone as I'm known to do, someone was saying, I would love to try to allow students to annotate on docs in a chat, like the doc that we did, but must practice it first. Did you have a lot of, you know, lead into, do you have any tips is what I'm really asking.
I've never done that.
Didn't you say you have them, I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood, that you have them share a document that they do together, or no? That was
No.
Oh,
what I do is I have them, okay. No, they might submit homework to me. I go over it, and then in the rooms, they can put up their documents and read out loud, but they're not actually editing anything.
Got it.
Moira, I put a hyperlink in there.
Oh,
and
excellent.
Actually, I think people can even try it. I can always take things. Don't remove anything, hopefully.
No.
You can add something.
I think I'm set. I think I might be able to share.
Okay, great. Go ahead, Donna.
Well, let me
Perfect.
Oh, that's mine.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's hers. Yeah. She
That's
clicked
cool.
right
That's very
before
cool.
I clicked mine. Okay.
Beautiful fruit.
That's very pretty.
Yeah.
Makes me hungry.
Yeah.
So students don't need an account or anything to do this, right?
No, you'll notice that it says anonymous on all of these because the Padlet belongs to me. So I had them type in their name and the name of the fruit or the food. We ended up using this for 2 because of an error I made. But anyway, and it was interesting because you see some people who have obviously copied a description from the internet, you know, so it provides an opportunity to say, please don't, just use your own words.
How do they enter it, Kristen? Do they type into something, a mortise of some sort?
No, you see that pink plus in the corner?
Yeah.
Let's see, can you press that? Yeah, open it up. Yeah, press it. Okay, now you see a new Padlet has opened. Now I will tell you, if you're doing this on, a cell phone, it's very, at least I found it easier if people did the picture first. I don't know if this is an artifact of my students doing it from Schoology, or I just try to keep everything in Schoology. But anyway, just open up that globe, yes, click that, the globe, no, not upload, Go over to the camera, go to the camera, move left, left. Oh,
left.
One icon, the thing that looks like a magnifying glass.
This one, right?
No, that one. Yeah. Okay. So click
my
that.
cursor doesn't work. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now just type in the name of a fruit there.
It's not interactive with us. It's not live on this call.
Well, no, let's just finish this first. So now so now she can pick a picture of an apple. Okay. And it automatically displays it in the post. Now you can go up to where it says title. Okay. Click into where it says title. Type your name. In this case, that's what I wanted them to do. A dash, and then the name of the fruit. Okay, now go down to where it says write something. And I had on one of them, the tasks, I'd had a list of questions, you know, what is this? Why do you like it? Where do you eat it? Who do you eat it with? Where do you eat it? Okay, now if you click out of the post, click anywhere out of the post, and so now the post is posted. Okay, yes. Now if you go up to those 3 dots on the right, yes, click that. Now you have some options. You could add a background color. Okay, click the 3 dots again. You can edit the post. Maybe, yeah, you could take out the picture. You could remove the picture. Yes, okay. It may be taking, yeah, okay. Let's see. You can delete the post.
Krista, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So are you doing this in your browser and you're screen sharing your browser for your class? How are they seeing it?
I go through it sharing my browser through Zoom, and I explain each step like I just did with Moira. And then And then I have them try it on their own. I've given them a link in Schoology, or you can provide it in Google Classroom, or you can send them the link through WhatsApp or email. And because I've configured it so that anyone can add to it, they can start with it. I had a class of about 20, and I had another teacher help me so that we split the group into two. So we were working from 2 breakout rooms, each with 10 students. So we could help them as inevitably they make a mistake or they're not sure what to do. But for the most part, everybody got the idea, by the end. So
Step by
I
step.
modeled it first. Yeah, I modeled it first. And I
more with a lower level, this would be quite the modeling assignment, I think.
Well, it's just, I think, speaking slowly, like Moira said, not much teacher talk, using, yeah. So, but anyway.
I don't know if others do this, but given, and Kristen, actually, you do have probably the most time with your students than anybody here at one given time, right? Because spell is Saturday and it's an all day long time versus most of us, right? Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
But my Lehman class, we meet twice a week.
Right.
So even
exactly.
the Lehman students did it too.
Yeah.
And did a great job.
I was just going to suggest something that I do, which is instructional videos that they watch as asynchronous time. That's another option if you're worried about the time it might take, and maybe for lower level students, even even smaller bites and steps, things like that. Just throwing it out there. Thanks, Kristen. That's really impressive.
I have a question for Kristen, because I tried Padlet with level 1 and it was just a disaster. But I know that there's several different templates in Padlet that you can use. Which template was this one?
This was the, I think this was the one that Moira had suggested in that long article was, I can't remember what it's called, but each one has a name. And do you want to go to the Padlet main screen and just click Add Padlet?
Eric, do you still have control?
What now?
Sorry, I didn't know if you still had control, or Kristen, who are you directing the person who has control of the screen? I think that's still you, maybe.
Well, I didn't have control of it. I think Eric must have been doing it.
I think it's wall, right? It's like,
You mean sharing the screen? I wasn't sharing.
I don't know who.
I know it wasn't me either.
Let me go here.
I think I figured it out, Kristen. Yeah, I opened up the Padlet and wrote on it, and I found it was easier to do than I thought.
Yes, right. So here we're seeing it. If you add a new Padlet, just add a new Padlet.
This is me, by the way. Okay,
Yeah,
I'll
make a new Padlet, and it gives you all these templates. So I use the one called Wall, and you can set it up so that the entries, it's first in, first out, or last in, first out. I mean, you can either have the newest ones come up at the top or the newest one come at the bottom.
Right here, you're saying new post position over here, first or
Yes,
last.
right.
Now, how do I share this with you all? Copy.
You are.
I can see
I'm
it.
showing it to you, but I'm not sharing it with you.
Okay, so go to, so if you've finished it, I think go to next. Go to next up at the top. Okay.
So
I
maybe
just click, yeah, now hit share, and it will ask you what, let's see. So then the default is
visitors can
write. Yeah.
Visitors can write there. So it's already by default. So I just copy this.
And then I copy the link.
So here, go. You can play on here. So there it is. If you want to add to my wall, I just put it in the chat.
Meaning we could all do it.
We could all do it right
now.
What would you like us to put in?
Your favorite engaging, your favorite breakout activity. We could have used this instead of Google Docs, I guess, for, I don't know, or your favorite weekend activity. Let's make it lower stakes. So,
you just click on the link that Eric gave you.
And then upload, right? Oh,
no,
not upload. Just
press the pink
send.
thing.
that's it. Okay, I'm done. Oh, I can move it.
I think I'm missing how to send it.
You just click outside of the frame.
Okay. There we go. Wow. With practice, this could be a great rose and thorn startup activity, right? I mean, it would take a little time, but you could do this as a 5-minute activity. Or what are you going to do this weekend, right? And everybody posts. Or exit ticket, like Irva, I can't remember who said that.
I think one thing is you can only put in one picture per Padlet, as near as I can tell. I mean, for each post, I think you can only put in one picture per post.
We can edit each other's posts.
No, I can't. I'm trying to do it on.
Maybe I can.
Yeah, maybe you can't. Yes, because you're the owner.
Right.
The other thing you don't have active on this, you can also post comments at the bottom. So students can write a comment about or ask a question about what someone has posted.
What, do I have to turn something on to make that happen?
I think you have to go back into the settings. I don't know if you can do it retroactively or not.
comments. Boom. Oh, that's lovely. Okay.
Yeah, and if you, the rest of us need to refresh our screens. And then, well, let's see. I don't, now that may be teachers' comments. I don't know. I still don't see comments available to us.
Sorry, I hadn't saved it yet. How about now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is good for find someone who.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I know. I was just like, okay, someone who Zooms with their mom on the weekend, right? Someone whose favorite activity is sleeping.
Yep.
Oh, so you can also guess who wrote each of these things.
Right, right.
Yeah, that's why I have them write their name at the top. It's also good practice to using a capital letter for to begin their first name.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I did that Who activity with my class about a week ago. And they had a great time with it. They interviewed a partner and then posted the answers in the form of almost like a poem, and then the other students had to read the post and then guess who it was describing.
So they each did one interview and then posted that?
Because like not everybody was there, Eric, on the day. There were some people who had to interview multiple people and write their post.
Where did they write the post? Or they gave it to you and you put it together?
No, they went right to Padlet.
Oh, they did in Padlet. Oh, okay,
They
cool.
went right to Padlet. I can show you really.
Could someone write a comment? I'm just curious. I see it added my name, so it must recognize me some way. And it put in Eric, a handle for Eric, but the rest of them I think just come up anonymous. So you would have to add the name. If this
I think it's because you're logged into Padlet right now.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah,
All
Kristen, I
right.
see your comment to me about the farmer's market.
So I just really quickly, because Kristen did a great job of explaining, but this was our Guess Who activity that we did with the class. So it's like a level 3 class. And in the comments, you see that the students kind of put their guesses in the comments.
Oh, that's clever.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Sorry, Don, I was on the other screen, so I
That's
just came
okay.
back here.
So you've had your students make Padlet accounts.
Yes, some of them did, and then when they do, you can see their name.
Right.
Which for me, it's a good idea because I want to know who did the assignment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if it comes up as anonymous, then I don't know who it is.
Uh-huh.
But we had a lot of fun with this.
It looks great.
It works pretty well.
Yeah.
So.
This has so much potential. I mean, already has a lot of stuff with it.
And time.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it just begs the question also of the activity that we did of what do you need to do, just drawing it back, like what do I need to do to be able to move forward to use this and at what level, for sure. So we've gone over time, but Padlet was very, very useful. As Eric, who probably needed to take a drink or a bathroom break, said, we'll send out notes and links in the chat. It'll all come in the follow-up message to this workshop. And included in that, I don't know who, someone had mentioned in their notes that they wanted some low-level things. I have a couple low-level suggestions for slides that I use in Google Slides. So as you all know, that's my jam. Any last questions or thoughts or comments for the few who are still here? Thanks for sticking around and sharing, everybody.
Could I
Go
just
ahead.
ask a quick question? Is anybody here who knows how to generate a close activity from a Word or a Google Doc? I thought somebody who comes to these meetings had mentioned it once, and I've been on a mission to find something, but I'm on a wild goose chase. So,
Chris, that sounds like something you could do in live worksheets, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm trying to understand. I'm not sure. Do you want to close activity in Google Docs? Was that the question?
No.
Sorry.
I want a live. Maybe it's live worksheets. Maybe that's what
I've
I need
used
to
live
look at.
worksheets. It's pretty easy to set up. The problem with live worksheets that I'm finding is that while they go to your that you set up an account, it's free, and they go to a mailbox, so you can, as soon as they do this, and you have to explain and model a couple of times for low-level students, but they email you the answers, and then you can see their answers, so that's good. The bad thing is then if you want to add feedback, either have to type in the feedback into an email, which is not great. I'd rather just, like I used to do, just write on the paper,
Sure.
circle it, and correct the spelling or whatever, or good job or whatever. You can't do that. You can only do this with individual worksheets. They have something which I have not tried yet. It's called workbooks. So maybe with your level, you could make a workbook and just say, do page, 1 and 2 for homework.
Does it generate the?
Then it seems like I'm not sure. I'm talking without having done it, but with the individual worksheets, you assign that, and it comes back to you as soon as they've done that. It's great, so you can assess their understanding. But then giving feedback with live worksheets has been less than ideal. What I end up doing is just making a screenshot of that on my computer, and then I have like a kind of very crude version of PDF markup, and I just do it that way, and then I send it back. So it's like setting it up is fast and easy. It's on the other end that you get like
the feedback is arduous.
Plus, they seem to do it a lot, and so I'm getting like I send the feedback, and then I want to do it again, and so like, okay, can we please just move on and do your homework for this week and not week 1?
Yeah. Okay.
So it works well on a phone as well as a computer. So there's good and there's not so good.
I just put the link to live worksheets in the chat in case anybody wants to. And Chris inspired me to do that myself. I made my first live worksheet. And Donna Grant, I think I am also gonna, you've put me to the challenge of, she said she's gonna try a jigsaw reading. I may try and do that this week with my writing students. Maybe I need to be put to that challenge too. I need a challenge too, also.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody, and until the next time.